What was the pettiest reason you refused to date someone? My new car kept scraping on the bottom while pulling out of their steep driveway to the main road. After the fourth time of trying to be careful and it still scraped. I love this answer. Like, I agree it's petty, but I also broke up with a girl in high school cause my lower truck scraped the trailer hitch pulling in and out of her driveway. Well, I think the universe was just punishing you for driving a rolling oxymoron such as a lower truck, not to mention one with a trailer hitch. We all have different tastes, but that was one thing that always bugged me. If someone showed up to a date in a lowered truck, I would probably be posting my story on here. That's completely fair. I was 17 and an idiot, all about low and slow instead of function meshing with form. Plus it was a 4-cylinder 2WDs 10-step side, so my starting point was already pretty bleak. But it was high school, and I still can't leave cars stock to this day, so it's definitely not the dumbest thing I've done to a vehicle. She had the same name as my mom. I went out with someone who has the same name as my cat. I brought him back to my house, and the second I got home I greeted my cat and the guy looked at me, and I knew right then and there that I couldn't do this. My parents had a dog with the same name as my now husband when we first started dating. I didn't tell him about it for like 3 months because I was mortified. Everyone laughs at me for it now. We named the dog Indy. Same. Had a dog named Jessica in South Africa, moved to the US, and gave the dog to my uncle because Rottweilers are too restricted here. Started dating a girl named Jessica and found it weird for a bit. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. A very attractive, fun, smart woman asked me if I wanted to go get ice cream with her. I turned her down, but I guess in a way that she felt was flirty, so she kept asking. And finally I had to tell her I was turning her down because she had both my mother's first and last name. She laughed a lot and agreed we couldn't date. That sucks. I had the same happen in high school. She had a different last name, but it was just too weird for me. Such a sweet girl too. Fortunately we've remained friends and are both in happy relationships, though interestingly her fiance has the same first and middle name as me, lol. That would have been fun for future generations to try to figure out your family tree. Yikes, yeah. I've managed to be okay dating guys with my father's and both brothers' names, all extremely common, so kind of inevitable, but dating a guy with my mom's name turned out to be a bit too much. She was super hot, but she smelled. I don't know if she didn't shower or use deodorant, but she just smelled funky. I couldn't do it. My best girlfriend at the time was like, just tell her. How do you tell a girl you've known for a few weeks that she smells bad? So I just stopped talking to her. Brilliant. Weird enough is that sometimes people just smell like that without necessarily have a medical condition, so good call. People who smell spent a bunch of time trying to find a way to stop smelling bad to just have the answer that is their natural odor. A sweet mate in college had a funky smell. Her entire room had that smell too. She showered every day. She didn't use funky alternative cleansers, she used perfume, but she had that odor. I could never say anything about it. I've never had anyone tell me I smell, but your post made me paranoid that I'm walking around with some funk and don't know. Not me, but someone refusing to date me because it's weird you don't have Instagram. This happened to me because I didn't have a Facebook, lol. On the flip side, I dated someone and thought it was so cool that he didn't have Facebook. This was 8+ years ago when it turned out he did have a Facebook, but it was named like John and Jane Doe. So searching his name would have never pulled up that his wife's name was hyphenated with his. That was a fun one to find out. I feel like that's the first thing guys lie to me about when trying to get in my pants. They almost always do end up having a Facebook. When I find it, their page has nothing about any girl, but within 5 minutes I'm on their current girlfriend's page, where she has a million pics of them together. dating nowadays is no fun, so I removed myself from it and from Facebook, and I've never been more at peace. I was the receiver of the petty reason, not the giver. When I was in college, a girl wouldn't go on a second date with me because my dorm room was too clean. Edit to at, what I got told by a mutual friend was that because my room was clean, it had to mean that I was gay, so she wouldn't date me. Fellas, is it gay to clean your room? No, I used to live so filthy as a stoner that now I use that time to make sure I keep it clean. Also, not all gay guys are neat and tidy. The absolute filthiest person I ever had the misfortune of sharing a house with happened to be a gay dude. I saw his room after he had moved out. It looked like he had just thrown all his trash on the floor for the entire year he'd lived there. The room was absolutely full of clutter, and this was after he'd removed an entire industrial size garbage bin of trash. And the smell, oh god, the smell. The messiest roommate I've ever had was a gay dude too. He never had a job in the 2 years we lived together. Never cleaned a dish. He had all the time in the world and just couldn't be bothered. I was so lucky I had my own bathroom and a small basement room, but about a week after I moved and I was cleaning the kitchen and there were maggots in the cupboards. I was young and too passive to make a big deal about it at the time. Felt lucky for even living there, but Devin, if you're reading this, she once wanted a burger without chips. I wanted one with chips. She ate all of my chips. Her reason was that because I wasn't eating my chips because I didn't want them. I asked her, if I didn't want, then why did I order them? This ain't petty. It would me senseless mentally to be with someone who cannot put her demands in a clear manner and ask for chips. A friend of mine dated this girl who never ordered food, but as soon as your food showed up she'd say, I love whatever your food was, and start eating it. Without asking. My god, what an insufferable piece of human. I remember a same behavior in my ex-girlfriend brother. When we were eating he just stretched his hands towards my plate, and with his filthy hands he usually took some food without even asking. Disgusting, no respect at all, and it was even during the pandemic. Luckily I don't have to deal with her family anymore. My girlfriend tries to pull the I don't want anything card when I order food. I say no, you do, pick something, because when my food gets here I'm eating my food and you will not be eating my food. She got mad about it the first couple times when I really wouldn't let her eat my food, but now she just orders her own. It's great. Everything was going great. Thought she was an amazing girl and we'd been seeing each other for 2 months. Go to her house for the first time, and it was a little messy, but nothing to write home about. Then I go to the bathroom and put up the toilet seat. I don't think she'd ever cleaned the bottom of the toilet seat given how disgusting it was. From then on, the only thing I could think about when talking or being with her was that disgusting toilet seat. I was friends with a guy who I was never going to date, like, ever. We were just friends, and I hardly ever went to his place cause our friend group always hung out at mine or out somewhere. So I went to pick him up to hang out, and I had to feel bad. I asked if I could use his toilet, but he said it's really gross, no one cleans it. I didn't care, I just had to. So I said I'm going to either use your toilet or in your garden. He looked at me, looked back at his house, looked at me, and said I'll hold out my jacket so no one sees you in the garden. He gets full points for self-awareness. But points retracted for being self-aware yet doing nothing about it, lol. You're right, but if you have a roommate or roommates who does no cleaning, they can out dirty faster than you can out clean. I've had that experience, and it was a nightmare. My roommate was already messy, then he started seeing someone as messy as he was, and they spent every minute at our place. I'd spend an entire Friday night cleaning, and come back on Sunday evening to a complete disaster. No amount of communicating solved the issue. I ended up living with my partner and still paying rent, because I was just so broken after almost a year with my roommate. She lived across the bridge, and I hate going across the bridge. Edit. Didn't expect this to blow up. It's the Bay Bridge in the SF area. I live in Oakland. For me to date a girl in the city it'll take me an hour, to get there an hour home. All of this, after working all day. Just not some I'd want to do, unless I was super into someone, which ironically I'd never know since, the bridge. TBH it wouldn't have been fair to her either. Side note, more than a decade later I'm married to a girl from the other side of the bridge, so you could say I got over it. This isn't just any bridge. This is the bridge. I would never date someone across the bridge. Takes too damn long to get there and all the good spots are on my side anyways. So I have to go pick her up then come back across, just to hang out then take her back then come back across to go home. Every time I touched her, I would smell of egg. Like holding hands, egg. Hugged her, my shirt would smell of egg. Strangest bit was, she didn't smell like that whatsoever. Also, when I broke it off, the egg smelling stopped. So IDK. There are perfumes that are incompatible. When they mix it stinks real bad like eggs. My buddy had that problem with his body wash and his laundry detergent. We had to do an intervention. It was probably just your laundry products. Can also happen with certain scents and body chemistries. My GF tried a new lotion the other day that smelled great on its own, but made her smell terrible. She had to shower it off and then gifted the rest of the bottle to a friend. Yeah, I didn't really believe that was a major thing with perfumes until I smelled it in action. I have this perfume I love, and I always get compliments. It has a peppery metallic sweetness I like a lot. I'll let my friend borrow it, and it smelled terrible on her. Kind of sulfuric like Op describes actually. I have super dry skin and she's got oily skin, IDK if that has something to do with it. This makes me so happy. I told my family this about our clothes after they were washed and no one could smell it but me, but it was real. That was years ago but finally I've been vindicated. Same name as my ex. I recently met a guy who had a name tattooed on his neck. It's not a super common name, and the particular spelling even less common, and apparently it was the name of his first baby mama. Conveniently enough, his next baby mama and current girlfriend had the same name that was already tattooed on his neck. Last I saw them, she was parked behind him at the job site parking lot and the front end of her car/rear end of his car looked damaged, as if she had run her car into his several times. My point is, I think you dodged a bullet. Apparently Samanthas are just my type, because my ex was one. I had multiple crushes throughout school with that name, and my fiancé is one too. I've been through 3 Emilas at this point. At least it won't confuse your grandma. I'm always reminding extended family that no, this is not ex, this is current GF. We've been together 4 years and lived together. Ex was a short fling a very long time ago, stop using her name. Every single text of her ended with, I just couldn't do it man. At least she's not one of those psychos who ended with a weird number of dots, like 2 or 4, or even the really weird ones who just slap those dots everywhere. My dad does this and it drives me crazy. We'll talk tomorrow. It's so ominous, and then he'll tell me my mom has started on the garden again. My stepdad does this too. Dude will text me after he gets off of work around midnight and it's something like, hello, I need to talk to you, it's important. Will you call tomorrow? Hope to hear from you, good night. Gives me a heart attack every time, because it's so needlessly ominous. Is it really gonna be a good night, or should I expect him to ask for my help with hiding her body in the morning? My mom adds to the end of everything she asks, and if I don't reply fast enough I get hit with hello, annoys the living hell out of me. It's not that important, and to add that level of significance to a very minor question just grinds my gears. He was very allergic to peanuts. I eat peanut butter toast nearly every day and I just didn't want to give that up. Justified. I eat peanut butter by the spoonful. I had a friend in college who was allergic to peanut butter and I had a bit of a crush on him. We hooked up once and then a few weeks later his allergy came up again in conversation and I was like, oh my gosh, if I were to kiss you after having eaten peanut butter would you have a reaction? And turns out it had happened before with another girl. So then I realized 1. I could have killed him if I had had peanut butter that day and not realized. And 2, I could never date him because I love peanut butter way too much. True love is being able to give up peanut butter. All throughout my first pregnancy the smell of peanut butter made me vomit. My husband eats peanut butter out of the jar with spoons. It was a rough 8 to 9 months for both of us. And of course pregnancy made me like Super Saiyan when it came to smell. He'd sneak some at the other end of the apartment and I'd literally yell at him, "Brush your damn teeth," before coming into the bedroom because I could smell it and was already dry heaving. I got put on a blind date because I'm a redhead and this guy knew this absolute babe who had this for gingers. Half an hour into this date she just flat out tells me I'm not ginger enough. Turns out she was attracted to pasty white freckled curly haired gingers, not whatever the I am. At least she was honest. Bloody brilliant. My most liked anything is about not being ginger enough. She likes those weird light boys I guess. Bro, I just found out Harry Potter was rich as from her inheritance. Like I need someone to explain to me why he let the Weasleys just be broke as I know if I got a fat bank account and my best friend's family is struggling and driving around that raggedy why didn't he just hook them up? Really makes me see Harry as a different person, to be honest with you. Did you read the books? Harry tried multiple times to give the Weasleys money. They never accepted a single penny. The only time they technically did was when Fred and George needed money for their joke shop, and they paid him back as soon as possible. Nope, never read the books, literally found it out yesterday and was hoping to God someone would call me out because I did not want to see Harry Potter with a greedy personality. Although he was just dirt poor living with his aunt and uncle. I'm glad you told me that it makes him so much more humble. After our first date he called me and asked me what I was up to. I replied cleaning my house. He says, "Oh, you like cleaning? I have a house cleaner who comes every other day, but if we got married we could get rid of her and just have you clean." Sometimes they make it easy for you to decide if there should be a date #2. I was on a first date, told him I love to cook, and you'd told me his mom would teach me how to do his fab dishes just the way he likes. He wasn't kidding, took me the same day after dinner to his place to meet his mom. I was mortified. An ex of mine threw an actual temper tantrum, stomping and whining because I didn't make something like his mom did. I wish I'd left him right then and there. He also refused to tell his parents we lived together and made me hide my stuff when they were over. We drop our dog off with his mom and sister during the day to play with their animals. While we were at work they gave him a name they thought was more fitting and refused to call him his actual name. His response to this was more whining, but no actual argument. He got a few consecutive bites out of my ice cream on our first date without asking me and before I even tasted my own ice cream, and didn't even offer his to me. This is not petty. He was telling you what you needed to know about him. I once had a dude grab an ice cream cone out of my hands and bite the bottom so he could get the chocolate bit in the bottom of the waffle cone. Not only did he take the best part from me without asking, but he also left me with a cone that was dripping melted ice cream, so I just threw it out. To this day, I wish I would have gotten out of the car and never spoken to him again. When I hear about behavior like this, I can immediately see the children in class who never quite learned to be a considerate human being. They never get past the "I'm the center of the universe" mental stage and continue to exhibit bafflingly selfish behavior. It's the kind of story someone tells that you just think couldn't be true. Nobody could be that much of a could they? But unfortunately, yes they can. Arrived at a movie theater early with a friend. The theater was 100% empty besides the two of us. A stranger comes in by himself. He walked straight over to our aisle and sits down at the exact chair to my left. Our elbows were now touching. It was a rare time in my life where the filter was completely off, and I actually said exactly what I was thinking. I said to him, "Are you serious right now?" This lunatic had the audacity to say, "What?" About 3 weeks in, I cooked dinner. It was the first time we had eaten dinner quietly at home as a date. His chewing noises drove me up the wall. I noped out after that. Edit. I can't believe how much this blew up. Thanks for the awards. For those of you with misophonia, I feel for you. Trust me, this particular dude was merely gross. I wish I had eaten more cereal with my husband before I married him. I'm forced to leave the room when he eats it. The crunching, smacking and slurping sounds make me hear the Kill Bill sirens. Yeah, I don't have a problem with chewing sounds generally, they're just life, but damn it, some people will drive you to drink with their chomping and slurping. Thankfully I fed this dude fetaxine and learned about his preferred level of slurp early on. Some things can't be corrected, better let him find someone less sensitive. My roommate in college once managed to slurp down a Caesar salad. The sound was so irritating I just had to go sit in the kitchen until he finished. I'm white and my husband is Chinese, and I swear this is the biggest hurdle of our interracial/cultural relationship. In my culture it's rude to slurp, make eating noises, etc. And in his it's rude not to. Drives me absolutely insane. I swear the man can slurp even the most solid of foods. Every time I took a bite of food he asked me a question, after which he stared at me while I finished chewing. The date went on like this for an hour. He had a supernatural sense of poor timing. Edit. For spelling and whole snacks waking up to this one blowing up. First time poster. Cheers for all the votes and awards. Love reading all the replies. My grandma kept doing that to my mom at a holiday dinner. Mom takes bite, grandma asks question, but she didn't want to wait for an answer and would go well if the answer didn't come fast enough. My mom finally snapped. My mother taught me not to talk with my mouth full. How about yours? Which was extra funny because she was talking to her mother. Back in middle school home economics, we had to watch a video on table manners. One of the I have a question segments was a man asking how to deal with his mother-in-law doing this to him. The answer was to take incredibly small bites so you could chew and swallow in a timely manner to answer the question. It seemed ridiculous, but apparently this actually happens. This makes me feel better about eating dinner alone, in the dark, silently. There was a guy I liked, and we were flirting a lot, and then he asked my roommate out on a date. They went out, and she said he spent the whole time asking about me, so we asked his friend about it, and apparently he had what he thought was a brilliant plan, to go out with my roommate, so I would become jealous and want to go out with him. Except I had been more than willing to date him if he had asked me instead of my roommate. He called me a week after the date with my roommate trying to spin some story about how going out with her showed him how much he liked me and asked if I wanted to go out. I told him I don't go on dates with guys who have dated my friends. He wore a horrible pink shirt with palm leaves on it. It looked like woven vomit. Would have been okay with that, but he thought it's because it was a designer shirt. He bought it secondhand. He thought I'd be falling in love because it's a DS inner shirt and he can afford it. The attitude and his ego made me wave goodbye after 5 minutes of the date. We didn't even leave the train station. This isn't petty. Who talks about their own shirt 5 minutes into a date? You made the right call. His first sentence was something like, "Hi, finally we meet. I put on my most expensive shirt for you. See. It's designer name long forgotten." I was like, oh lol, that's cringy. If someone calls attention to the fact something is designer, it's because they can't afford it anyway. Once a girl told me that my clothing is too simple because there are no writings, images or big design logos on my clothes. I told her that I'm not getting paid for advertising other people's businesses. I always try to put the amount of logos and writings to minimum. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.